Well, it's a big show.
Welcome to the Fade Route
It's a big bad show tonight.
with DNZ.
Yeah, it's a big show.
Here are your hosts,
Crack it up, turn on them lights.
DNZ. Welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Fade Route with DNZ. I am Z, and we have a great show planned for you. We're talking Daniel Jones' future, the Mets hiring a new manager, and it's Festivus. So, as you know, we are going to get our airing of grievances out. We got a lot of problems with a lot of people, and they're going to hear about it. But let's start with the week that was in the NFL and where we ended up in terms of sports in general. Some of the more controversial games, we have the Kansas City Chiefs knocking off the LA Chargers in overtime, but the real story here is the management and the decision-making of head coach Brandon Staley going for it 5 times on 4th down. Super aggressive, particularly within field goal range, where passing on those points, going for touchdowns, ultimately bit the Chargers in the ass because 9 points would have kept them out of overtime, and ultimately Patrick Mahomes did the deed, and the Chiefs won 34-28. Another questionable decision call, or at least one that made you scratch your head, depending on what team you root for. The Green Bay Packers knocked off the Baltimore Ravens 31-30, and literally boiled down to the last play of the game. Touchdown by Tyler Huntley. Coach Harbaugh goes for the 2 points. He's got Justin Tucker on the sideline. This is the second time it's happened. He's one of the best, if not the best kicker in NFL history. Yes, the defense is banged up, but you take your chances, and maybe in overtime you can pick off the Packers. Instead, they went for Andrews, and ultimately they did not. So they were unsuccessful on that 4th down. Packers win 31-30. So a couple of head scratchers, and you wonder about the aggressiveness of the nature. Yes, you play to win the game, but you really got to think about, timing and the role of analytics and when you actually use it to your advantage. Because just because the card says you go for it doesn't mean you necessarily have to go for it, There's some context in everything, and I think that sometimes that gets a little lost. And we're now in a little bit of a COVID situation once again, as spikes are raging across the states, and the NHL has been put on pause right now. It was going to be initially just the regular holiday pause, but the NHL extended it in light of multiple COVID cancellations. The NFL weekend had multiple games moved, much to the dismay of Mark Davis of the Las Vegas Raiders, who actually won their game. So it was kind of pointless to complain, but hey, you do you, Mark. But ultimately, COVID is rearing its ugly head again, and it might impact the Christmas Day slate in the NBA. We will see how this goes. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. And here he is. I've known this guy since our days on Carousel Shoes, flight crew through and through, the last QB in St. John's history. What's up, D? How's it going, man? And happy Festivus.
Yeah, happy Festivus. Yeah, I mean, it's odd what's going on right now, right? I mean, you have the NHL pausing their season, right? From December 22nd to December 26th, they're not playing any games. This is because of a rampant COVID outbreak, which saw a league where almost 100% of the players and staff were fully vaccinated. And they have so many breakouts that not only did they have to pause the season, but they came to an agreement with the Players Association that they were not going to participate in the Olympics. And this is wild, right? Because this is one thing that most hockey players take a lot of pride in, being able to go and play for their country in the Olympics, because I believe the NHL has the most international players. Then you have the NBA, who had to reschedule, I believe, 11 of their 11 teams' games because they had an outbreak. And then the oddest thing of all is you have the NFL, who reschedules some games, doesn't cancel any games, but then they change their COVID policy to the degree of now they're no longer going to test vaccinated players. They're only going to test players that are not vaccinated, and they'll test vaccinated players only if they ask to be vaccinated or if they're showing symptoms. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, are you serious? You take this measure while other leagues are pausing and shutting down? You're taking the stance of, you know what, we're just not going to test anybody because this is turning out to be a disaster. I mean, we got positive tests all over the place. We just won't test anybody, and then we'll be able to play our games as normal. Sound okay to you, Bob? Yeah, sounds great to me, Raj. Like, what are you talking about? I don't know where the disconnect is. I don't know how. I mean, how foolish does this look for the NFL to move forward with their season in a year when they added an extra game? Like, why? How could you possibly make this decision now while things are in the uptick? You know, and I was actually talking to a friend of mine who's a league doctor, and one of the things he was questioning was, he's like, you know, listen, we have arguably some of the healthiest and well-fit players in professional sports, right? Now they're fully vaccinated, and now all of them are coming down with the COVID virus. So what the fuck? Like, what does this mean? How does this mean for anything? Like, what are we gonna do? Mandate that they all get a booster? I don't know, man.
At the end of the day, this is a desperate attempt by the league to make sure that they finish this season on time. That's the only thing 100%. That this speaks to, because if you look at it, right, they were going to be Joe Hardass, right? Oh, we're not going to cancel anything. We're not going to do it. As soon as the rubber met the road and they were met with a little bit of resistance, they quickly backtracked on that, right?
Remember, originally it was teams will forfeit their games if they can't field a team on Sunday. That was the original agreement.
And Mark Davis actually spoke to that when they moved the Raiders and the Browns. He said, "This puts us at a competitive disadvantage. I thought we were doing this. I thought we were going to forfeit. Like I thought they were gonna do this, but apparently that's not the case."
No, because in Mark's situation, he's like, "Yeah, you're moving my game, and now I got to play in a short week."
Granted, they won. But,
but the whole thing, and you know what? Give Gary Bettman credit here, because he is shutting down because he doesn't want unfair competition. He doesn't want his teams to be without their stars. He doesn't want teams to be without their players. Same thing with the Olympics. I mean, he's not a big fan of the Olympics because he doesn't want their players going over there and getting hurt. But at the end of the day, he's like, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to push forward. We're going to shut it down right now and reevaluate after Christmas, because we are having a spike and I don't know how to move forward. Like, you're talking about a football league that at one time suspended Tom Brady for deflating a football because of an unfair competitive advantage. Now you got Gilbert playing quarterback for the Washington football team a couple nights ago because Allen and Heineke couldn't come off the COVID list.
Mm-hmm.
How is that fair to the Washington football team? Their chances of making the playoffs are done now.
Well, you also had Mullins, right? Nick Mullins started instead of Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum.
Almost won the game too. He almost won the game, which doesn't say much about Baker Mayfield, if you ask me.
No, it doesn't. But at the same time, like, both teams were at a competitive disadvantage at that point. Yeah,
right. It's like, where do we draw on the line, guys? Like, we're supposed to have competitive football. This is not competitive when you're taking away the best players and telling a team, yeah, go out there and wing it. Especially teams that are on the fringe. Now, you get a team like the Packers that were they were above 500 when they had to play without Aaron Rodgers. But the Browns went from like a 6th seed to a 12th to out of the playoffs. And then you get the Washington football team that was competing for a spot to now their chances are shot to shit. That's not fair. How is that fair? And forget about, the fans, right? Now you also heavily involved in Vegas, heavily involved in betting, right? And fantasy is like it's either your number 1 or your number 2 draw. We got teams going into the playoffs right now. Some teams are playing championships this weekend. Some people are in their second round. Might not have Travis Kelce, might not have Tyreek Hill. Come on. And now you're just kind of waiting. It's like it comes to a situation, man, there's a Thursday night game tomorrow. I got to play whoever I have because I don't know if my players are going to make it till Sunday.
Yeah. It's completely short-sighted. It's completely boneheaded of Roger Goodell and the NFL, because at the end of the day, you are not only playing with the competitive balance of the league, you're also playing with players' health and safety. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is absolutely ludicrous that you would be this irresponsible. And I understand that, you're you're going to minimize testing unless they feel symptomatic. But if you look at what's going on with Omicron, right? Omicron, for the most part, it's mild symptoms. It's similar to a cold if you're vaccinated. You're really not impacted as much if you are vaccinated. So are guys going to actually heed this or think, hey, I just have a cold? And are they just going to keep going? Like, are they going to err on the side of caution? Because the league certainly doesn't seem like they are, because they just want to get their shit in. It just speaks to the fact that the league ultimately does not care about its players. It starts with the guaranteed contracts, and now it really speaks to that as well, that they really do not care about whether their labor force is healthy or not. And Baker Mayfield is 100% right about that when he fired off that tweet. So say what you will about him on the field, off the field, he's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on.
Right, but the other side of it is like, if I'm a player that's on a team that's losing, let's say I'm on Jacksonville or Houston, or if I'm on the Bears, where I know my coach is not coming back next year, it behooves me to get tested every day because I want to show up on the COVID list so I don't have to play, right? That's an excuse for me not to play. So it's not like I'm faking an injury. No, I tested positive for COVID, whether it's a fake positive or whatever. I'm out this weekend. There's only 3 games left. The last thing I want to do is tear my Achilles or tear my ACL or tear a pec in a game that means nothing, right? Especially if you're playing against a team that has nothing to play for too. You got a bunch of people putting their life and the health and the safety of their family on the line for what?
Looking to break into broadcast media, web development, social media marketing, or filmmaking? Then CSB is the program for you. From day one, you'll be trained hands-on by industry pros like friend of the show Rob Adams, whose goal is to get you trained and get you working in months. not years. CSB offers 8 and 16-week programs in small class sizes designed to give you the personalized attention you need. If you can make it in person, there are 5 East Coast locations. If you can't, they offer virtual classes too. How great is that? And once you graduate, you become part of the alumni network that gets you to the front of the line. Trust me, I'm an alum myself. Go to gocsb.com today, request more info, set up a studio tour, and who knows, you may very well be on your way to a career in broadcast media. That's gocsb.com and tell them Z sent you. gocsb.com.
Moving on into more football news. Brady and the Bucks got shut out at home. It's talking about the health and safety of players. The Bucks lost a ton of them. Mike Evans and Leonard Fournette went down with hamstring injuries. Chris Godwin is lost for the season due to an MCL tear. And I believe Levante David is also going to be gone for the season with an injury. Man, what are Brady's chances of moving forward without all of these stars?
Well, this is the league of next man up, right? So Leonard Fournette, you're out. Rojo, it's your time to shine. And you know what? This actually is a possibility for Keyshawn Vaughn, right? This is his time to prove that he can be the guy that they want him to be when they drafted him.
Tell El Bell that.
Well, Le'Veon Bell is not long for that team. I'm sorry. I know they signed him.
He has to put his boxing career on hold now.
You know, because he wants to fight a YouTuber. Good luck. You know, good for you, El Bell. You've been a waste for better part of 3 years now. So it is what it is. And the big winner here is apparently former Pittsburgh Steelers, because now Antonio Brown's out of the doghouse, right? Because it's convenient for him to be out of the doghouse because they need him. Their number one receiver at this point, because you don't have Evans, you don't have Godwin, he automatically moves up to number one because you're not going to trust Tyler Johnson in that role. You're not going to trust Scotty Miller in that role. You're not going to run 3 tight end sets with Gronk, Howard, and Cameron Brate. You're going to have to do something. It's got to be next man up. And you know, with that many injuries, it's difficult for me to say that Tom Brady and the Buccaneers are going to be able to get back to where they were. However, because of the fact that Antonio Brown slots everybody down one to where Brown is your 1, Johnson's your 2, Miller becomes your slot receiver, your 3, you could probably get a couple games, and if Rojo actually can be the bell cow that they want him to be, and Keyshawn Vaughn can fill in and supplement and back him up effectively, they'll still kind of tread water, but repeat looks a hell of a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree with you, and only for the reason that I think Levante David's probably the biggest loss for them, because I think Rojo proved last year that he can play. I mean, he does have fumble issues, but he can play. And they're getting an Antonio Brown back that hasn't played in over 6 weeks. And let's be real, Antonio Brown can be a number 1 receiver on any team in the league. And they can rely on him. So I'm not going to count them out. It seems very important now, though, that they do compete all the way to the end to get that number 1 seed, because that'll help them, right? It'll help them to be able to get a bye week to rest up before having to play the playoffs. The Bucks got shut out at home. Saints are 0-4. I mean, the Bucks are 0-4 against the Saints, or at least Brady's 0-4 against the Saints. It's coming down there in the regular season. I'm not sure what Dennis Allen knows about Tom Brady. The rest of the league doesn't, but I mean, getting that shutout 9-0, I think it was the first time he was shut out since 2007 6 or something crazy like that. But one of the things Brady brought up at the end of the game and in the press conference, he was talking about, they need to put in rules that protect the wide receivers from low hits, just like they protect the linemen and the quarterbacks. How'd you feel about that?
The message is fine. The timing is a little suspect, just because it definitely, I can see where guys would think it was like sour grapes after the game, and I believe players actually tweeted in response to that. Okay, so you don't want us to play football. Got it. Message heard, Tom. But for player safety, I understand that, like, it's a livelihood issue. Their knees, the wide receiver's knees, like a running back's knee, a lineman's knee, a quarterback's knee, they're all, it's their bread and butter. Defensive, the main issue is the legislation of defense. At what point does it stop? Because it's a very true statement that you need to protect the knees, but you can only hit where? In the chest? At that point, you can't wrap up an ankle. Like, the strike zone for a legal hit is getting smaller, and just like in baseball, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller to the point where you're going to get a guy square in the chest plate, and you're going to get called for unnecessary roughness at some point. Like, it is getting a little ridiculous with the amount that defense is being legislated, but at the same time, I get where Brady's coming from, and it's going too far. It definitely is going too far. But as far as to go back to what you're saying about why Dennis Allen and his defense is so effective against Tom Brady, is that they can get him off his spot. Guys like Demario Davis, guys like Cameron Jordan, you have disruptors on that defense. Quan Alexander, another guy. They can get in the backfield. They can get him off his spot, either make him throw the ball before he's ready or make him turtle up and take that sack. So that's really where, for whatever reason, this defense and the way that Dennis Allen schemes it has become the kryptonite. And this is a copycat league. So hopefully guys are watching tape so that they can kind of figure out how to get Brady off his spot. Because, 21 years in the league, they still haven't really figured out how to get Brady off his spot.
Yeah, I think Allen's approach is similar to approaches that Tony Dungy used to do, where we're going to rush 4. We're going to rush 4. We're going to play coverage. And the Saints just happen to have like one of the best defensive ends in the game in Cam Jordan. Mm-hmm. So that's really what I think helped him there. And then the fact that he didn't have any of his weapons. He didn't have Brown. He didn't have Fournette. He didn't have Mike Evans. He didn't have Antonio Brown. So his timing with all those receivers were off. And Gronk, he missed some passes, and he looks incredibly slow running around. So I don't think it's so much that Dennis Allen has his number. It's that, that's always been the kryptonite for Tom, was if you can get pressure with 4, you got a chance. If you're gonna blitz a guy and give him an extra one out there, you're donezo. And that's the same thing with, he loves dropping the ball down to the backs. You had Keyshawn Vaughn drop 2 passes. Fournette was gone. Rojo was trying to do everything. So, I think if they were to face the Saints again, they'd have better success. But to go back to what Tom was discussing in regards to legs, I don't mean to be ruthless with this, but it's, you're all in a league together. You're all in a fraternity. I think it's up to your competition to not go for the knees and to try to hit the strike zone to the best that they can. And if they don't, shouldn't be penalized for it. It's more or less like, do better next time. I know we're talking about careers, but if you ask players, they'd rather get hit in the head than get hit in the knees, because at least with that, it's not going to affect them walking. and they're not going to have to go under the knife or anything like that. I understand the NFL's push for safety, but I mean, Chris Godwin's a wide receiver. Catch the ball and get down. How many years did Welker have to change his way of approaching games because he was getting concussions, where he started catching the ball and falling? And, it's not as easy when you're trying to catch and run. And I'm not promoting people getting hit in the knees and ending careers, but this is professional football. It's a bang bang play. It's not as easy as it sounds. Even the best tacklers at points are just gonna miss.
No, absolutely. And everybody fights for the extra yard. It's not instinctive of them to just sit down on a play. The only time you see that is really on a third down with a tight end who's going to run in, kind of box out a defender, catch the ball, and just like plop his ass down. Like that's the only time you really see it. Sometimes with a running back, same thing. But it's not instinctive of the wide receiver position because it's just yards after catch, yards after catch, yards after catch. But when you think about it, what are we always screaming at during 2-minute drills? Get out of bounds, go down, get out of bounds, go down, get back to the line, get back to the huddle.
Yeah.
So it's like we saw this a couple weeks ago with Chase Claypool. Made the catch, didn't get back to the huddle, didn't really go down, decided to, pimp his catch and ultimately cost his team the game. So it's something that needs to be taught. It's something that is not instinctive of this generation of wide receivers. And, I think over time it has no choice but to improve because they're going to keep hitting you. They're just going to keep hitting you where they can hit you. And you have to adjust.
I think there needs to be more flexibility with the rule, though. I mean, a lot of times the quarterbacks get hit low, and they're not getting hit low because the defensive tackle is coming in low. It's because the defensive tackle is exhausted from fighting with the guard, and he's making a diving attempt just to get the quarterback on the ground, or he might have even tripped and fell, and with his last kind of, throwing himself out there, he clips the quarterback. And I know it's unfortunate. You don't want to see quarterbacks get hurt, and you don't want to see them, hurt their knees and stuff like that. But I mean, I think that's different from a Mike linebacker coming on a blitz and going right for a knee, right? And then the other part is like a lot of times when they throw these screen passes, you have the corner is coming in to make the tackle, and he's got to take on a block from an offensive lineman. He can't take on that block, so what does he do? He tries to take the lineman down by throwing himself at the knees. What is he supposed to do?
Right.
You want him to take that guy on full, he's going to die doing that. You can't
have
do shit like that.
Or you have these mobile quarterbacks who are just extending the play. And, you're caught as a defensive player. You're now caught in between. It's like, is he a runner yet? Can I hit him? Can I hit him now?
Yeah.
Please? And we had that one guy in the Bears game. He kind of like squirted through
Kendricks, yeah.
Yeah, that one. And then you had another guy who just like squirted through a defensive lineman's legs and picked Justin Fields' ankle, or maybe Kirk Cousins' ankle, and he got called for a penalty. I'm like, are you
No, it can't be that way. And that's the other thing. I think it needs to, you got to stop going by the book and say, oh, he hit him in the legs, it's a penalty. Let's assess it a little bit more. Let's look at it a little bit more. Let's think about it a little bit more. It's not. I don't think it's just so cut and dry. Even like the hits to the head. There was a hit to the head in the Chicago game where he really didn't hit the guy in the head. He actually hit him in his chest and hit the ball, and they called him for a personal foul. That's not right. And we'll talk. I think we're going to talk about it a little bit later. But that's where instant replay's got to be like, well, hold on, guys. Like. He really didn't hit him in the head, or he really didn't go for. This wasn't a malicious hit. He was trying to knock the guy down in a safe way. I don't know. I don't know what to do about it.
It's a gray area. It's a gray area.
Is your hair thinning, or is your hairline receding? Scalp micropigmentation will fill in the areas where your hair is missing by creating a short buzz cut look. Micropigmentation is a non-invasive procedure that will create the illusion of hair follicles for 7 to 10 years. For people with alopecia, this could be a permanent fix. For people with scars on their scalp, this is a great way to camouflage a scar. Don't lose confidence or feel like you need to wear a hat wherever you go. Marquez Studio is located in the Bronx and is open for all your scalp micropigmentation needs. Consultations are free and appointments can be made any day of the week. Get your hairline back with scalp micropigmentation. The techs at Marquez Studio have over 30 years of hair cutting experience and can assist you with all of your questions. Call to schedule a consultation today, 646-221-8728. You can also visit them on Instagram at Bronx Marquez to see their gallery and view all their satisfied customers. Again, that is Marquez Studio, located in the Bronx, New York, 646-221-8728.
Another guy who's in a little bit of a gray area is Giants quarterback Daniel Jones. He's being shut down for the year with neck problems. They're mulling over whether or not to pick up his fifth-year option. He's been in contact with Joe Judge, and head coach Joe Judge has said that, they'd like to pick up that option, but, he doesn't really have that authority. That falls on Dave Gettleman, and all three of these guys might end up out on their ass. But Jones wants to stay. Judge wants him to stay. But ultimately, what does this mean for Daniel Jones' future as a New York Giant?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I was actually watching some of his games the last couple of days because I was just curious, what the Giants should do. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not seeing progress. And yes, his turnovers have gone down from when he was a rookie to last year to even this year. They've gone down, but I'm not seeing Justin Herbert out there. I am not seeing Joe Burrow out there. I'm not seeing the next generational talent. I don't think they should exercise his fifth option. Let him play next year and see what happens after next year. Because if he has a terrible year or he gets hurt again, because he seems to get hurt every year, if he gets hurt, now you're in the mix. You're probably going to have a top 10 pick and you're in the quarterback sweepstakes again. But he is definitely, he's a good player. He's good. He's not number 6 overall good. He's not top 10 good. I'd say he's bottom 20. He's in the top. He's a starting quarterback in the National Football League, but so is Blake Bortles at one point. So and that's the person I kind of think about when I see Daniel Jones. I think of Blake Bortles. He kind of reminds me of Blake Bortles.
So what you're saying is that Daniel Jones is a career backup and scout team quarterback, because that's what Blake Bortles is at this point.
No, but maybe with a little bit more of assistancy and go further. Let's remember, Blake Bortles was almost going to the Super Bowl one year where they actually hosted, I believe, the AFC Championship game against Tom Brady, and they let Brady come back and win.
It's a little misleading because you do have, they did have Leonard Fournette on that team, so a lot of the offense was run through playoff.
Their defense was stacked too. They had Jalen Ramsey, Calais Campbell. I think they had Jack on that team. They had a good team.
If Daniel Jones could be a competent game manager, then sure, that's fine. Game managers can be successful. Kirk Cousins got paid handsomely for being a game manager. But like you, I don't see a great quarterback when I look at Daniel Jones. A career 12-25 record, yeah, granted that's, a product of the team he's on. 45 touchdowns, 29 picks. The fumbles have been cleaned up, which is good. He's a relatively accurate passer. For his career, he's almost 63% for completion percentage. So, that's pretty decent. It's the decision making. The decision making still is not there yet. It's not fast enough. Or when he decides to run, he leads with his head. There's a reason why he's out right now with a bad neck, because he doesn't slide. Yes, he's a big guy. I get that. You're a big guy, but you're running head first into another big guy. That's not very smart. So I agree that the Giants should not pick up the 5th-year option, especially when they're so unsettled in the upper management scenario, because let's be real here, Dave Gettleman's gone. He is not long for his position. And say you bring in, a Charlie Casserly, or you bring in Tom Coughlin, or you bring in whoever you bring in. It's not going to be like John Idzik where they're going to force him to keep Joe Judge. They're going to let the new GM pick his guy. And they're very much tied together, coach, GM, and quarterback. So I think that there will be a full-on house cleaning. And Daniel Jones might just end up being collateral damage in that. And to be honest with you, the Giants have multiple first-round picks this year. You can take one of those picks and Jones, and you can move him to another team for a fresh start, and you can bring in a quarterback who is more accomplished, who wants to win, and who can take your team forward, who can be that guy who can steady the ship and move this team in the right direction. Whether that's a Derek Carr or a Russell Wilson or whomever.
Oh, there's Deshaun Watson, right?
Deshaun Watson, yeah.
There's Jimmy G. There's Aaron Rodgers. There's Trey Lance. There's quarterbacks to be got. There's going to be players out there where you can trade for them.
Yeah, there's absolutely going to be there. And, you give Daniel Jones the opportunity to prove it elsewhere. So, because he's only 24. It's not, let's not write him off yet. It's not like he's 28, 29. He is only 24, and he just may not be ready for the moment yet.
Somebody laughed at me, but hey, man, Mitchell Trubisky's out there too. And listen, I like Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, he was able to have success in Matt Nagy's system, which is awful. As we can see, what's happening to Justin Fields right now. I don't think people should. People say that he's a backup. I don't know. I think Trubisky should get another shot.
I mean, he's been to the playoffs. He's
over 500. He's got a over 500 record.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so does Matt Nagy though. So it's like we trash Matt Nagy on the regular, but Trubisky deserves another shot, and I think that Jones will get another opportunity somewhere. Whether it's as a backup or as, as a guy in Atlanta. What about Atlanta? Like Matt Ryan, he's not long for the league. Why not? Sit and learn behind Matt Ryan for a little bit, then put him in. What, he's 26, he's 27? Why not? It's definitely within the realm of possibility that you could get something there.
Yeah, and I had mentioned, Aaron Rodgers is a guy that could potentially come to the Giants or go to the 49ers or move on from the Green Bay Packers. But, man, he looked sensational against my Ravens on 9 toes this past weekend. And, and Jonathan Taylor, he iced the game against the Patriots late, proved with his leading 17 rushing touchdowns, I believe now. Did either cement themselves as the MVP from their performances this weekend?
You know as well as I that if Derrick Henry did not win MVP last year, Jonathan Taylor is not winning MVP this year. Like, it's a nice little story in the grander scheme of things. At this point, they would trip over themselves to find a quarterback to give this award to. So, congratulations to Jonathan Taylor. You're having a hell of a year, but if Derrick Henry or Dalvin Cook couldn't sniff that award, neither will you, my man. So, to me, this puts Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady on an even footing because Aaron Rodgers had that shit performance in week 1 and Tom Brady just got shut out. So you definitely have, now each of them has a bad game under their belt. But you're looking at 11-2 as a starter this year because you had that one Jordan Love game. You had 30 touchdowns, 4 picks. It's astounding. And it's going to be very difficult to overlook these kinds of stats. He's thrown for almost 3,500 yards already. So it's a 2-horse race. It would be nice if they would consider Jonathan Taylor, but I really don't think that they're going to because of the fact that they love to fawn on the quarterbacks. And, it's hard to deny the effectiveness of Aaron Rodgers this year, despite the whole immunized versus vaccinated controversy. I definitely think that he is starting to pull away from the rest of the competition.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens are a bad football team. That might not make the playoffs. They started a backup quarterback, and they were still a play away from sending the game into overtime or even winning the game. The Pats were one time, one of the top teams in the AFC, and I believe they're still the number 1 seed in the AFC East. Pats loaded the box against JT all night. He still got over 100 yards rushing, and then he broke one open to end the game late. For me, I hear what you're saying, but I think the running back should get it this year, just like I thought the running back should get it last year. But I understand they didn't give it to Derrick Henry last year, so how are you going to give it to Jonathan Taylor this year? But I don't know. He's having a great year. Without him, they wouldn't be where they are. And Rodgers and Brady, we've been there. It's like it's time for some new blood.
Agreed, but at the same time, it's just like all the quarterbacks that we have anointed, it's still the 2 old heads on the top. It is very interesting to me that all of the guys who are supposed to be the next ones, and we're still talking about Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. But what would it take? How many touchdowns would it take for Jonathan Taylor to be taken seriously as an MVP candidate? 24, 25, 30?
Right. LaDainian Tomlinson status. And the funny thing was I was watching, they were showing I think the last 6 running backs to win the MVP award, and he has similar numbers to them. And with the extra game, it might even help him push him over the top. So we'll have to see where it goes.
If you've ever listened to a podcast and thought to yourself, hey, I can do this, then do I have the tools for you? If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. No specialty training, no specialty programs needed. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. Plus, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. How cool is that? It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Go to anchor.fm and get started today. That's anchor.fm. What are you waiting for? Download the app.
But from talking about potential MVPs, let's talk about a guy that's not playing MVP basketball right now, and that's Anthony Davis. Goes down with an MCL sprain, likely out 4 to 6 weeks. How can the Lakers stay in it without AD?
Well, he's averaging 23.3 points. He's almost 10 rebounds a game, 2 blocks. So he is the defensive presence, and he is, the force down low. He was starting to be the guy that they brought in from New Orleans. That falls on DeAndre Jordan, a combination of DeAndre Jordan and Dwight Howard. Now, 5 years ago, that would have been great. That would have been a fine combination, we'll say. But it's not 5 years ago. It's 2021. So it remains to be seen if those guys can pull their weight down low. As usual, it falls on LeBron F. James. He's already playing 37 minutes. He's averaging almost 27 points. It's amazing to me, yet LeBron's got to do more. You brought all these guys in, and what happens? As always, it reverts to LeBron has to do more. It is amazing to me that regardless of whatever team he's on, it always ends up LeBron has to do more. Because, what are you going to get? You're going to get 14 points from Carmelo. Okay, maybe he can bump that up a little bit. Maybe he can give you 17, 18. I don't think he's going to start getting 30, 33 again like he was in his heyday with the Knicks. I don't think he's going to replace those points. Trevor Ariza, he's a defensive player. He's not going to be great. Russell Westbrook, it would be great. He's only at about 20 points. If he can get up to about 24 a game, that would be fantastic. But at the same time, they need more of a defensive presence, and they need that guy down low. So I don't see it on this roster right now. And the answer, as always, is LeBron must play harder.
Yeah, I don't think so this time. He's just too old now. I think honestly, Russ needs to play better, and Russ is actually playing pretty good. But LeBron does not look like he's having fun. I remember those days when he was with the Heat. He looked like he was having a blast. Basketball looks like it's a real job right now. And what Russ needs to do is he needs to average 25 points per game. He needs to shoot better from the line. And he needs to be the 1-2 combination with LeBron. Something LeBron hasn't had ever while he's been in the league.
No, he hasn't. When he was having fun, he was playing with two prime superstars.
Right.
You were playing with Chris Bosh. You were playing with Dwayne Wade. Here, you're playing with Russ, but Russ is not the guy that's making other guys better. We've seen this in many stops along the way. Russ is about Russ. Russ wants to get his triple-double. That's kind of where he is. LeBron is the guy who makes other guys better. But the problem is that he's not going to be the point guard. He's not going to bring the ball up. That job belongs to Russell Westbrook, or at least it should belong to Russell Westbrook. So what do? Do you play off the ball now and just become, a drive guy? Or do you become a catch and shoot guy? Are you going to bully your way to the basket? How are you going to change how you play in order to complement what Russ brings to the table? Especially now that you're at a more advanced age. I don't know.
Yeah,
so
there's no answer for that. But one thing is for sure is LeBron, I think his days of being the guy are behind him. He needs to rely on his team, and they haven't been healthy. So when they get healthy, they might be a little better. And like I said, I think Russ, he comes to play. He raises his game to a higher level. It's going to be they're not going to be able to beat Golden State. They're not going to be able to beat the Phoenix Suns, who I think are 25-5 right now.
Yeah.
So,
but this is what we were concerned about when they constructed this team. There's so many veteran players. Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan, Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James. All these guys are north of 30, and you're asking them to play critical roles. And it was a flawed construction then. It's a flawed construction now. And I don't necessarily know how you fix this. You need to get younger. You need to get younger. You need to get talented.
Which that's not even possible right now. can't help but smile when you see a balloon. The simplest occasion is a party. Westchester Pop Stars, located in New Rochelle, New York, offers balloon styling and decor for all life's events. Birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, showers, school and corporate events, store openings, or just because. Westchester Pop Stars takes balloons and shapes them into works of art, creating decorative installations for your special occasions. No event is too big or too small, and their custom personalization service is top-notch. Westchester Pop Stars is a private studio, quickly expanding. In-person consultation is by appointment only. Send an email to westchesterpopstars@gmail.com for more information or to schedule an appointment. No need to hire an event stylist. All you need is balloons. Currently servicing Westchester, Putnam, New York City, and Connecticut. To find Westchester Pop Stars, search for them on Instagram, Facebook, or Google. But your team, finally, the Mets have their manager. Mets signed Buck Showalter as their manager. I think you're stoked about this, so I'm going to cede my time to you here.
You are correct, sir. I am absolutely stoked about this hire. I wanted Buck Showalter when they initially hired Carlos Beltran. I wanted Buck Showalter when they initially hired Luis Rojas. I wanted Buck Showalter all the way back to when they hired Mickey Callaway, and they didn't even bother giving him a call. They probably could have had him after Willie Randolph, or possibly we're in the Art Howe era, because there was a gap between 2000 and 2003 when Buck was out of the league. So it's possible that, in the Art Howe era, that they could have worked out a little something to where Buck Showalter was running the ship. He brings stability. He brings maturity. He can definitely get the best out of his players. He's not totally analytics driven, but he's a numbers guy. That's the thing. What makes him different than other managerial candidates is that he takes the data and he applies it because he has some working understanding of it. He's not slavish to the book. Like, this is my fifth inning guy, and he's only going to be my fifth inning guy in this instance. He lets guys ride. He will let players play because that's the kind of manager he is. He's old school in that regard, and I think that this team needs a guy like him. Him and Max Scherzer are the two biggest acquisitions they will have this year. One adds further legitimacy to the rotation. The other one adds a legitimacy and a maturity to the organization that's been sorely lacking for years.
Meh. I mean, I honestly don't care for the hire. I didn't understand what the hoopla about this guy was. Did I miss a World Series that he won? Did I miss some kind of accolade that he achieved as a manager? I remember his time with the Baltimore Orioles. Buck's been out of the game for quite a while. I think they should have brought back. Why not bring back Beltran? He didn't. All those other guys that got put, tied up in that scandal, they went back on to coach. They got jobs. They got their jobs back. Why can't Carlos Beltran get his job back? How about David Cone? That'd have been cool. Or maybe even Joe Espada, who has been a special assistant to Brian Cashman in the past. At one point, he spent time as a bench coach with the Astros. Or my man, Ron Washington. I don't really see the hoopla about this hire. I've never been a Buck fan. I don't see what he's going to really do for the New York Mets.
Of the guys you just listed, I would only want Ron Washington. I don't want some numbers jockey. Sorry.
And Ron Washington's a good coach. He's a great coach. Been to a World Series. Has Buck been to a World Series? I think Ron went to 2, I actually think. I think he got them into 2.
He did, and they lost both. So, let's not bury the lead here. So, he has as many World Series rings as Buck Showalter.
No, not true. Because Ron was just with the Braves, and
Braves,
he's the
yes.
third base coach. He's got
He was
one.
sending them. Well, Buck Showalter was the third base coach for the Yankees too. So he's like, you're sending guys. We're just sending runners. But I don't want guys who are just going to be slaves to analytics. And I don't want to run down another first-year manager. You just did it with Mickey Callaway. You were going to do it with Carlos Beltran. You just did it with Luis Rojas. Let somebody with experience run the ship for a little while, and you'd see a huge difference. David Cohn is much like the Aaron Boone hire. Great on TV, and I think he would just be a puppet for Sandy Alderson and Billy Epler at the end of the day. So I like him. I like the fact that he's going to have backbone. He's going to do what he needs to do. And there is no doubt that any decision is going to come from Buck Showalter. And it's going to be a decision that's rooted in numbers, but an actual application of the numbers rather than some kind of formula. You can find the Fade Route on Facebook now. Check out our Facebook page, The Fade Route with DNZ. It's a one-stop shop for everything we do. Content, link to the Fade store, all of our episodes, you name it, it is there. The Fade Route with DNZ on Facebook.
The tradition of Festivus begins with the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
All right, boys and girls. We said it before. It is Festivus. And you know what happens on Festivus. We air our grievances. We got a lot of problems in the world of sports, and now you're going to hear about them. Who are your grievances, D?
Well, I'm going to start off with Antonio Brown, one of the most talented wide receivers to ever play the game. Man, you got caught with a fake fax card. Totally unnecessary. You're supposed to be a role model. You can't be doing stuff like that. If you don't want to get vaccinated, just don't get vaccinated. Next, my beloved Atlanta Braves. How do you not re-sign Freddie Freeman before the lockout? He is one of the best first basemen in the league. He won the MVP award 2 years ago, and he helped the Braves win their first World Series since 1995. Lock him up, man. Lock him up. Next one, J.J. Watt. I am so tired of hearing from you. Your team is about to go on a 3-game losing streak. This is why nobody took your team, the Cardinals, seriously. I'm tired of you being hurt. I'm tired of hearing from you. I'm actually rooting against the Cardinals because of you. Just stop talking. Your brother's better than you are. Next, NFL replay. Ever since the inception of replay, referees still get the plays wrong. They still get the replay wrong. I've been saying it for years. The replay system does not work. Just give it up. Give up to 60-year-old men who can barely see. Just let them call the game, and whatever happens, happens. If the eye in the sky wants to change something, let the eye in the sky change something. But man, replay is awful. Next, Dwayne Johnson. I miss the days when you were just a wrestler that I would cheer on Mondays, Thursdays, and an occasional Sunday. Now you're making movies, making tequila, starting a new football league, and appearing on Netflix shows. Dwayne Johnson, I am just tired of you, dude. And you were one of my favorite wrestlers ever. And last but finally not least is COVID-19. You've really just robbed people of life, travel, school, friendships, relationships, and normalcy. Stop spreading, stop mutating, and get the fuck out of here.
100% on COVID-19. COVID-19 go fuck yourself. As far as my grievances go, how about we get equal pay for the U.S. women's national soccer team? They play twice as many games as the men just to make as close to the same amount of money, right? They don't make the same amount. They get close, but they have to do double the work. Just like always, women have to do double the work to get the same, maybe a little less respect that the men usually do. So that shit needs to stop. Number 2, Trevor Bauer. Stop acting like a sexually assaulting pig. You got, how many times did you need to be put on administrative leave? How many times? Keep it in your pants, Trevor, and stay the hell away from everybody. Deshaun Watson, that goes for you too. Don't think I forgot about you. John Gruden.
I actually forgot about him. You know that? Somebody brought him up to me recently. I was like, holy shit, I forgot he's still on the Texans.
It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable what's going on. And you know what? You know what? NFL, you gutless bastards. You let him twist in the wind. MLB had the good sense to friggin' Keyshawn Trevor Bauer, but you let him twist in the wind, and you sunk Tua. You almost wrecked Tua because you refused to make that judgment call. So NFL, you can go fuck a duck. Moving on. Rob Manfred and Tony Clark, you're going to rob us of a Major League Baseball season. You can kiss my ass. Right there in Macy's window. John Gruden, I didn't forget about you. You're a racist piece of shit. So guess what? I don't want to hear from you anymore either. Who else? I think I said my piece. I got to save some for next year. Was it good for you?
Sorta. Are you in need of air care maintenance or service? I have the company for you. Air Care Technicians. They service the Westchester and Northern Bronx area and can help you with all your heating and cooling, maintenance, and service needs. Just give them a call at 914-315-1547. Again, that's 914-315-1547. Or shoot them an email at aircaretechnicians@gmail.com. These guys are the real deal as they are veteran-owned, licensed, and insured. Make sure to tell them that D&Z sent you.
The Fade Store presents the Alleged Superstar of the Week Award. All right, boys and girls. From the grievances of the year, we're now talking about the alleged superstar of the week. You know what to do. The poll is up after the show on our Twitter page at FadeRouteDNZ. Go check it out. Vote early, and you can make this happen. Do you know who won last week, D?
I do. Urban Meyer won.
And that was the kick that everybody heard. Coach Urban Meyer, you were the ass for last week, but who's going to win the ass this week? Who are your nominees, D?
My first nominee is Anthony Davis. Out at least 4 weeks with an MCL sprain. Dude, you're supposed to be a superstar and you're always hurt. How can we consider you one of the best players of all time if you can't get on the court? Now you can't even save the Lakers. Anthony Davis, you are my alleged superstar of the week. Next is Bruce Arians. Last year he said if AB made one mistake, he's out of here. Well, guess what? He's made more than one mistake since he's been on the Bucks. And now you say you need him to play on the team. Bruce Arians, you are my alleged superstar of the week. And last but not least, Tom Brady. Making the list this week. You're supposed to be the GOAT. You get shut out at home by Dennis Allen and the Saints with Taysom Hill as the quarterback. And then you slam a surface down the sideline and you tell the coach of the opposing team to go fuck himself because you can't figure out his defense. Tom Brady, you gotta act like a pro, and I love you, but you are my alleged superstar of the week. What say you, Z?
All good choices. You had one of mine. You had Bruce Arians. Mine is going to be mostly confined to coaches this week, but I got a player in there, and I got one as well that I think everybody will agree on. But we're going to start with John Harbaugh. Going forward on fourth down with the game on the line, with the best kicker in the NFL on the sideline, costing your team another win and potentially a playoff spot. Coach Harbaugh, you are my alleged superstar of the week. Coach Brandon Staley of the LA Chargers, passing up 9 points that would have kept you out of overtime with the Chiefs, leading to a loss. You, Coach Staley, are my alleged superstar of the week. Ryan Tannehill, 23 of 32, 153 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick, 2 fumbles, 1 fumble loss in a loss to the Steelers that allows the Colts to close the gap in the division. Ryan Tannehill, you are my alleged superstar of the week. And last but not least, Joe Buck, for one of the most brutal calls ever during Chiefs-Chargers with the Donald Parham injury, claiming the cold night rather than the head trauma was why Parham was twitching uncontrollably on the ground. Joe Buck, you are my alleged superstar of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, we have made our cases. It is now time for you to take to the Twitter page and vote, and for our nominees. Just do better, boys. Just do better. Your favorite podcast has its own merch line now. Go to the Fade store with DNZ.com today for all your Fade Route merch needs. I'm talking tank tops, t-shirts, sweatshirts, like yoga pants, we got those too. Like some cool accessories, we got those too. And we're not done yet. We have so much more planned for you, but check out what we have today at the Fade store with DNZ.com. That's the Fade store with DNZ.com. Let's run the option and give you our picks for the week. All right, boys and girls, it is the option for week 16. How'd you do last week, brother?
I did all right. I was 10-6. It's all right.
It's a pretty good week for us both. I won 11-5, so it seems like we're right in the ship over here for both of us. So
not too shabby.
Not too bad at all. Same deal, boys and girls. We have 4 days of NFL action this coming week, starting Thursday night with the 8-6 49ers at the 9-5 Titans. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going with the 49ers. I'm very tempted to start their defense in the fantasy playoffs, but I do like their chances of rolling the Titans.
Titans are not looking great right now. The Niners are surging. I like their defense. Elijah Mitchell can play. I'm going to roll with the Niners as well. Merry Christmas. Saturday, December 25th, 4:30 Eastern. The 7-7 Browns at the 11-3 Packers.
I am going with the Packers.
I'm going with the Packers too. The Browns are severely depleted right now. Who knows what's going to happen as we get closer to game time? They may get more whole, or they may just be holding steady. And if they hold steady, chances are they can't beat the Packers. Even if they're whole, chances are they can't beat the Packers. So we're just going to go with that and say Green Bay by at least a touchdown. And at 8:15, The 8-6 Colts at the 10-4 Cardinals.
Oh, the Cardinals are reeling right now. They're, like I said, they're going to go for their third loss in a row. I'm going with the Colts.
I'm going with the Colts as well. Jonathan Taylor's going to have a big game. The Rams kind of showed how to beat the Cardinals. They're reeling right now. And if you can get into that soft middle, you can throw the ball on them. So I'm expecting a big day from like a Mo Alley Cox or even a Michael Pittman Jr. But the Colts are pretty handily going to take this game, and the Cardinals are going to lose 3 in a row. Sunday. 1 o'clock slate of games. The 4-10 Giants at the 7-7 Eagles, who will be without their head coach Nick Sirianni, who tested positive for COVID.
Yeah, I'm thinking the Eagles. This would be a nice revenge game. No Daniel Jones either. Eagles should fly high.
Well, we're probably going to get the starting debut of Jake Fromm. So there's something for Giants fans to look forward to. But the Eagles are flying high, like you said. They're running on all cylinders, and the Giants are just playing out the string, hoping that they can get this season over with ASAP. Eagles in a rout. 10-4 Rams at the 7-7 Vikings.
I am taking the Rams. They seem to be playing well.
This is going to be a pretty good game. The Rams are pretty decent. They definitely have their moments. I'm going to go with the Vikings. I think that Dalvin Cook is going to have a big game. And I think that they're due for a big win and to take a big step in the playoff hunt. The 8-6 Bills at the 9-5 Pats.
I'm taking the Pats, man. This is important. This really will determine who is going to run the AFC East.
I don't know if the Bills and Coach McDermott have the juice to take on the Pats. I thought they did based on what they were able to do last year, but the Pats came to play, and they already put a whooping on the Bills this year without having to throw the ball more than 3 times. So I think the conditions will be better. Mac Jones will have to throw the ball more than 3 times, and I think he will be more successful. Pats by 10. The 10-4 Bucks at the 5-9 Panthers.
I'm starting the Bucks defense, so the Bucks better win. Sounds like Darnold and Cam are going to split time. That should be interesting. So hopefully the Bucks are a little angry about their 9-0 loss at home to a division opponent, and they pummel the Carolina Panthers.
I don't know if with those depleted weapons, if they're going to be able to really offensively compete with the Panthers. They'll be able to put some points up, but I don't know if they'll be able to really explode. But what will explode is the Buccaneers defense. And Todd Bowles is going to have them primed and ready to go. Bucks pretty easily. The Mediocrity Bowl, the 2-12 Jaguars at the 3-11 Jets.
I'm going with the Jets, man. No Coach Saleh. That should help them out.
No Coach Meyer either, so that's definitely going to help out the situation as well. I'm going to go with the Jets as well. Trevor Lawrence is not that great. He's not that great right now, and maybe next year he'll be better, but right now he's just not good. And if Zach Wilson can play 3 quarters of football, I think the Jets will be fine. Last week, he only played 2 quarters of football, and they fell apart against the Dolphins. Maybe he can get closer to completing a game. Jets are going to win. The 2-11-1 Lions at the 6-8 Falcons.
I'm taking the Falcons. I know the Lions beat the Cards last weekend, but the Falcons are actually good. They're a good team. They're not great, but they'll take care of business.
The Falcons should win this game. They are better than the Lions. The Lions will compete. It will be close, but I think the Falcons will do just enough to win. The 8-6 Chargers at the 3-11 Texans.
I was tempted to take the Texans in this game, especially the way the coach of the Chargers called the game last week. But I'm going to take the Chargers.
He hasn't learned his lesson. He came out and said he's going to continue to be aggressive, and that may very well bite them in the ass. But I don't think it's going to matter in this game because the Texans aren't very good. Chargers are going to win pretty easily. The 8-6 Ravens at the 8-6 Bengals for the division lead.
Yeah, I went back and forth on this, but ultimately I decided that the Ravens are just too hurt, so I'm taking the Bengals. And Tyler Huntley played very well last weekend.
Tyler Huntley, they have something in Tyler Huntley.
I think he's going to be a starter in the league next year.
I think he's got something. He's definitely got something. He's got a good arm. He's mobile. He can definitely carry a team. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's a good leader. You can tell just by the way he carries himself and how the team responds to him. That being said, the Bengals are more healthy, and the Bengals are playing well. I think it's because of the no nightlife in Cincinnati, as per Joe Burrow. There's really nothing going on. That's why they're healthy. At least that's what he's saying. I'm going to take the Bengals pretty easily. The 4-10 Bears go and face the Seahawks at 5-9, entering the 4 o'clock hour.
Yep, Seahawks.
Pretty easily. In the matchup of two coaches that will not be there next year, Pete Carroll is going to pack Matt Nagy's bags before he packs his own. The 7-6 and 1 Steelers go into Arrowhead at 4:25 to take on the 10-4 Chiefs.
Chiefs there.
Chiefs roll. Even without Kelsey, even without Hill.
Well, they can still have back-to-back negative tests and play, so they still have a chance to play.
There's an outside shot for sure.
Yeah, they've both been vaccinated, so they just have to have consecutive negative tests to play. And I'm being told that it's likely that they'll play.
Either way, how about them Chiefs?
Yeah.
The 7-7 Broncos at the 7-7 Raiders.
I'm gonna take the Broncos. Just they play good defense, and my boy is starting. Yeah.
Drew Lock.
Love Drew Lock, man. Love that guy.
Well, we hope Teddy Bridgewater's okay. We're just gonna send that out right now. That was a scary looking face plant that he took, and hopefully Teddy's okay. But I'm gonna take the Raiders on this one. They're a little bit healthier. And I think that's going to matter at the end of the day.
I hope you're right. I hope Jacobs has like 1,000 yards rushing because he hasn't had a 100-yard game all year, and he's one of my top backs. So I hope you're right.
Well, we will definitely.
And he was out of practice today because of an illness, so he better not have COVID.
Well, if he does, then it's going to fall back onto the backup. So we will see. But yeah, I think the Raiders are definitely going to take this one. It's going to be close, though. Both teams are pretty mediocre. Your Sunday night special, the 6-8 Washington football team at the 10-4 Cowboys.
Cowboys, Washington's done so.
Cowboys pretty easily. Washington will put up a fight, but if they have to start Garrett Gilbert again, no. Sorry, no offense to Garrett Gilbert, but this
friend of the program.
This ain't the XFL, and this ain't the AF. This is the NFL. And your Monday Night Delight, 8:15, the 7-7 Dolphins at the 7-7 Saints.
Yeah, I'm taking the Saints. They play really good defense. Dolphins don't do anything special, so I think I like the Saints' chances.
Saints play good defense. I like what the Dolphins are doing right now. They don't wow you, but they definitely get the job done. And Coach Flo has not lost the locker room, so they've been rolling. I think they continue to roll. I'm going to take the Dolphins.
Well, this has been the Fade Route with D&Z. Thanks for tuning in tonight. You can catch our podcast Wednesday nights on the Anchor, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcast. Until next time, stay faded, everyone.
We'll talk to you next week, and happy Festivus, Merry Christmas, and Happy Holidays. If you want to get in on the action, we want to hear from you. Hit us up at Fade Route Podcast on IG, faderoutemail@gmail.com, or slide in our DMs at Twitter at FadeRouteDNZ. Questions, comments, picks, segment suggestions, you name it. We want to hear from you. Get at us, in crowd.